Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Well, today I'm delighted to be taking a look at a new game that has just been sent through to us from the company that has designed this game. And this game is, I'm not sure you see how rather wonderful that cover is, but it's very shiny. It is in real life. It's quite delightful. Well, this is Doomlings, and it does actually say on the cover, a delightful card game. So a card game as delightful as its cover. And this is a game for 2 to 6 players and will last around 20 to 45 minutes. Well, somewhere on a doomed and distant planet, life has emerged, competing for dominance until the world's inevitable destruction. Score points by playing traits for your Doomling species, making them more adaptable, resilient, and mischievous. Play traits across multiple rounds called ages, but be warned, hidden in the ages are catastrophes, special rounds that befall the planet, forcing you to adapt your strategy until the end of the world. This is a delightful, I keep saying delightful all the time, it's because they got delightful on the box cover. Oh, but it is delightful. Now this is a nice, simple card game where you are constantly adapting to the changes in the ages, and there are 3 catastrophe cards that are going to be seeded within the cards that you're going to be playing with, and when the 3rd catastrophe is revealed, that is going to be the end of the world, and that is when everyone scores and see who's won. Let's take a look at what we get in the game of Doomlings, and then we'll take a look at how you set up and how to play this rather interesting and, dare I say it, delightful card game. Okay, let's take a look at setting up a game of Doomlings. Now, the first thing you will need to do is to separate the cards. So you need to have the Birth of Life card, which is this card, keep that separate. You should have a large pile of trait cards, a smaller pile of ages cards, you'll have some player reference cards, and you'd have some gene pool cards for players to track their gene pool. So the first thing you need to do is go through the ages card and separate all the cards that have catastrophe written on them. So what you should have is 15 catastrophe age cards and then 25 normal age cards. Take the normal age cards and give these a good old shuffle, and then you will deal 3 piles, 1, 2, 3, with 3 ages cards in each pile, and you would set the rest of the cards aside. Then you will take your catastrophe age cards, give these a good old shuffle, and add 1 of these to each of the 3 piles, and again place these then to one side. And then you would shuffle each one of these piles and place 1 pile on top of the other, like that, and finally place the Birth of Life card on top of that. Now you give each player a player aid and also give each player a gene pool card, and you can just pick whichever card colour you prefer. And you would place the card in front of you with the number 5 facing forward. Now this card is used to indicate the level of your gene pool, and this represents how many cards you should hold to end your turn, and you would rotate this card as your gene pool increases or decreases. So if you start off on 5, if it increased to 6 or increased to 7, or indeed if it decreased to 6, decreased to 5, if it decreases to 4, flip the card over, and then continue if it decreased again to 3, and so on. Now the final thing you need to do is grab all the trait cards and give these a real good old shuffle. And in the rules it says you need to shuffle the traits like as if your life depends upon it. And then what we would do is deal 5 cards to each player. So I'm just setting up a 2-player game here. And once each player has their cards, you pop this into the center of the play area. And that's it. That's the setup complete. And now on to the gameplay. Now the object of the game is to score the most points by the end of the world. Now the first player to play is going to be the player to the left of the dealer. And to begin, the first player will flip the Birth of Life card from the age pile, which simply sets up the game. So this is telling us to set our gene pool to 5, which we have already, and we can play 1 trait each turn and then stabilize to end our turn. So make sure we're following the rules on the current age card here. So we can play 1 trait from our hand face up in front of you, and this is your trait pile, and it's how you're going to earn points. So if I look at my hand of cards here, I can see I've got a number of different cards here worth a number of different points at the bottom left hand corner. Now some traits will have an effect, such as this one here. It's an action, draw 4 cards. Or this one has an effect: whenever you discard endurance from your trait pile, return it to your trait pile. So let's just play endurance. So I would place that into my trait pile, but start in my trait pile. So once you've played your card, face up, followed any effects, then you stabilize to end your turn. And to stabilize, the number of cards you hold must be equal to the number at the top of your gene pool cards. So I played 1 card, I've got 4 cards remaining, I got 5 in my gene pool, so I would draw another card to bring myself back up to 5. Now, if I had more than 5 cards in my hand, at this point, I would have to discard cards until I have 5 remaining. Now, you only do this action at the end of your turn, and that's the stabilize action. And once you've stabilized, your turn is over. So let's take a look at what cards this player has. Well, let's just say they will play this card. So they add it to their gene pool, and it tells them that they get +1 gene pool. So they would rotate this to show that their gene pool is now at 6. That would be the end of their turn. So they need to stabilize. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, but they should be on 6. So they will need to draw 2 cards. And then that's their turn over. So if I am the first player, we would start the next round by turning over the age card and follow its effects. So this card now is Lunar Retreat. We play the game as normal. However, players cannot play any purple traits. So I would look at my hand here and do not have any purple traits, so that's fine. So perhaps I want to play this card here, which is a kidney, and the value of this card is equal to the number of kidneys in our trait pile, including this one. So at the moment this is only worth 1 value, but what I can do is I can add that to my trait pile. Now what the game suggests you do is you add cards of the same color to each of your trait piles and overlap them so that you can see and everyone else can see how many points you're going to get or likely to get at the end of the turn. I will now need to stabilize. So I got 4 cards. I need to stabilize up to 5. Add that to my hand, and then that's my turn over. And then it goes on to the next player. So they may have a look at their hand now. So perhaps they'll start a new trait here. Now, this has an action at the bottom of it, and you have to activate that action when you play the card and follow its effects if possible. So when this player played this card, all opponents must discard one red trait from their trait pile. So I would need to discard one of my red traits. Now what I would do in this case, I would discard my endurance card, because whenever it's discarded, it'll return to my trait pile. So that's all good. Now I need to stabilize. So we've got 5 cards to stabilize back up to 6. Then it'd be the next player's turn. We're only playing a 2-player game. So we would then flip over the next age card, follow its instructions, and continue playing like that. Now let's take a look at some of the other effects on cards. Now, as we said, the age effects, they will only last for that round. But any additions to or from your gene pool will continue over to the following rounds. Now, the trait effects, such as these here, they will occur as long as they're in your trait pile. If you lose the card, you will lose that effect. And as we looked at, action cards there with the A action symbol, they come into effect immediately only when they're played from your hand of cards. Now some traits can be played out of turn, and to quickly identify these cards, look for this symbol and note that these traits can still be played as a normal turn. Now there are dominant traits, and dominant traits have a gold border and a gold star in the top right hand corner, and once they are played, they cannot be swapped, stolen, discarded, returned or removed from your trait pile for any reason. And you can only play 2 of these cards, so choose wisely, and do keep an eye out for these, because it's easy to forget and play a number of these cards. You can only play 2 of these cards with the dominant trait, so keep an eye out for these when you're playing the game. Now, by random chance, your trait pile may receive a 3rd dominant trait, totally by random. So it could happen by playing a trait directly from the top, blind from the deck. Now, in that case, instead of playing the 3rd dominant card, you will discard it. Now, there is a card called Birth of a Hero, and the age card Birth of a Hero commands you to play the trait Heroic without restriction. And Heroic is one of the trait cards which normally comes with some form of restriction. But you would get to play that card, if you have it in your hand, immediately. And if it would be your 3rd dominant trait, you may actually keep it. And this is the only way to have 3 dominant traits in your trait pile. This trait is an end of world effect, and this will happen at the end of the game. And traits with a drop of life provide bonuses or modifiers to your score. And this icon here is to identify expansion cards. And then finally you have the colour and colourless there. So there's 4 colours: blue, green, purple and red. And grey is the colourless and isn't used for colour designated effects. If you're able, you must play a trait, even if it's something you don't want in your trait pile. But on the rare occasions you might be unable to play a trait on your turn. If your hand is empty, draw 5 cards and skip your turn. If you hold cards but can't play any, you just skip your turn. And you may, if you choose, discard your entire hand and draw 3 cards. In either case, do not stabilize this turn. Okay, so you may be thinking, what happens when you reveal a catastrophe card, when you're revealing your age cards? Now, whenever a catastrophe card is drawn, the first player position moves to the player to the left, and then we follow all the effects listed on the catastrophe card in white. So all players would reduce their gene pool by 1. So I would have to flip my card over from 5 to 4, and they would reduce down to 5. Now it tells us we discard all but 1 card from our hands. So we would have to look through our hands, and perhaps I'm going to keep this card. and discard these cards, and this player may keep that card and discard these cards. And then we would continue to play the game as normal. Now there is an effect in yellow at the bottom of the card called World's End. Now that only comes into effect when the third and final catastrophe card is drawn. So we would continue playing and doing the effects on the cards. That's the second catastrophe, so we would follow that but not do the World's End, and we would continue playing until we hit that third catastrophe. There it is. So when the final catastrophe card is drawn, that's it. The world ends and no more turns are taken. So now what do you do? Well, first you play the gene pool effect and the catastrophic effect, just like you would any other catastrophe. And then in turn order, players will check their traits in their trait piles for any World's End symbols in the bottom right hand corner, and then you would resolve those effects now. Then we resolve the World's End effect of the final catastrophe. And remember, no more turns are taken. It's time to tally the score. So when the third catastrophe is drawn, that's it. The world will end. Now what the game advises is, as you are playing the game, to keep track of how many catastrophe cards you've activated. Remember, there's only 3 in the game. Then when you've followed the actions on the first one and then continue playing with a different pile until you hit the next catastrophe card, and then follow its effects and then continue playing on another pile of cards there. So we know now we've had 1, 2 catastrophe cards, and the third one now is going to actually end the game. So we would follow the effects there and then end the game with the World's End effect. And we can clearly see when the game is going to end. So finally on to scoring. We would tally up all the points on all the traits in your trait piles. And finally, tally up any bonuses or modifiers in your trait pile. And to quickly identify these cards, look for the drop of life in the bottom right-hand corner. Now the winner is the player with the most points. And in the rare event of a tie, we leave it to fate. Draw a trait from the top of the deck and apply only the face value to the final score until you've determined the winner. And that's it. That's how you play a game of Doomlings. This is a cracking little game that I'm sure will be enjoyed by people of all ages. It's really fun to play, simple to play. There's lots of interactions, so there is a little bit of take that in there, so please do be mindful of that. But there's plenty going on there for you to be able to recover from any mischievous actions other players played against you. It's just a fun, almost like set collection game, and the rounds are quick and quite snappy, and we've played it with, I think, 2 to 4 players we played it. And at 2 players, it certainly is a very snappy game. We found we could play it quite quickly indeed. But we are seasoned board gamers, so 20-minute play time on the box cover there for 2 players. Yeah, I would imagine that's fine. And that would, I would imagine, cover even learning the game as well, because it is quite straightforward to pick up. And once you played a couple of games, you'll be happily playing without having to look at the rule booklet at all. Well, that is Doomlings. I do rather enjoy this game, I must admit, and I'm very grateful for the company getting in touch with me and sending us a copy of this game, because we have really enjoyed it, and we have taken it to Aircon Northwest with us, and I dare say we'll probably take it to Aircon North as well in Telford. So there you go. Doomlings, well worth checking out. And I'm particularly excited to see when they have any expansions coming out for the game, because that's going to be very interesting to see what else they're going to add in to mix this game up a bit. Well, there you go. I do hope you enjoyed taking a look at this with me. If you did, please consider hitting the old like button, and please also hit that subscribe button if you would before the end of the world, because that would really help to grow the channel. And in the meantime, as always, thanks so much for watching. Please do take care, and bye for now.